and welcome back to ATLATL Live. Our team has been hard at work bringing the next iteration of 3D tech to our e-commerce clients and partners. And while we always are excited to talk about the product, today's episode is more of a peek behind the curtains. Instead of the product, we'll be talking more about the people behind it, in particular, the women of ATLATL. In honor of Women's History Month, we've gathered our team to talk about women in tech, how we got here, and where we see us going. Let's meet the team. Well, welcome, ladies. I'm glad that we could get all of us together for this Women's History Month episode. I think it's awesome that we have so many women represented in tech and across our entire company. So getting us all together, we're excited to have this conversation. So to kick it off, I'd love to have each of us go through, introduce yourself, what your role is, and how long you've been with ATLATL. So Amanda, we'll start with you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Medelsky. I am the Demand Generation Manager here at ATLATL. I've been here for about 10 months, so really exciting.
I'll go next. I'm Brittany Shore. I'm the Client Delivery Manager at ATLATL. I've been with ATLATL for about 6 months now, so getting through the honeymoon stage, but everything is still on track with the honeymoon, so we're doing great.
Hi, I'm Ariel Olache. I'm an implementation manager, and I've been here a little over a year.
Hi, I'm Trudy Wilson, and I'm the Director of Engineering Operations, and I've been here for a little over 3 years.
Hey, I'm Emma Rastetter. I am one of the product owners at ATLATL, and I've been here for about a year and a half.
Hi, I'm Perry Flitter. I'm our Revenue Operations Manager here at ATLATL, and I have been here a little over 2.5 years.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allie Pringle. I am the Director of Finance and People Operations at ATLATL, and I have been here just over 4 years.
And I already introduced myself, but I am Catherine Jacoby. I am the marketing manager, and I have been here about 5 months. It's been, like Brittany said, it's getting towards the end of the traditional honeymoon phase, but I've still loved every minute with this team and looking forward to what the rest of the year is going to bring. So most of these episodes, when we talk about ATLATL, we're talking very heavily about the tech and the product, but this episode is very much more about the people behind that product. And we have mentioned before that, culture is a big part of our company. I think it's particularly great for us to have such a group of strong women with a lot of really diverse backgrounds. And I know we've already talked about the diversity in our group on other calls, but I think it's really cool for someone coming in to see what we're able to accomplish. And especially with the emphasis on International Women's Day, which was yesterday, and the focus on Women's History Month throughout the month of March, I think there's a lot of great opportunities for us to have conversations about, what you expect out of your career, what you can expect from yourself, and not being afraid to take those jumps. So I think it's really cool, the fact that our group of women not only represents like a single department at ATLATL, we really do touch every part of the business. And all of our skill sets kind of touch all the parts of the business. So one person that I really want to kick off with is actually Allie. Like you said, you are our Director of Finance and People Operations. And I remember during my interview being really struck by the combination of your roles and kind of how you got to that role. So I'd love to have you talk about, the challenges with that and how you got there and really kind of what you've learned from it.
Yeah, definitely would love to. So I was brought onto ATLATL a little over 4 years ago to run the accounting and finance department. So that was kind of the main goal when I came on board, and that made sense with my background. I'm a CPA. I started out my career at a big four accounting firm in New York City, so kind of made sense to go into those areas. But as I learned pretty quickly once I got on board, working for a startup is, totally different than being at a very large company. There's tons of different things that get thrown your way, and, you kind of got to jump on those opportunities and, figure out how you can kind of help in different areas that you may or may not have experience in. So that's kind of what happened, with the HR functionalities that I kind of took over a couple months after I started. So it was really, kind of started off as, hey, can you help out with these couple of things? And then it will be, a temporary thing. We'll get someone to backfill those duties, and kind of grew from there. So that was the initial, initial jumping off point. And then it really, at first I was totally, overwhelmed. Like, I have absolutely no experience in this field. I truly, didn't even know at that point, what someone, a director of HR really even, did on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of learning curves. The number one thing I think I did to kind of take on some of those functions was to reach out to some locals here in Charleston that I really, were in the HR field that I respected, previous mentors that, had kind of at least had more experience in that area than I did, just to try and get some knowledge sharing from them, run some ideas past them, and then really figure out how, I could manage kind of the two roles that were super important at the company. So it's a lot of things to learn when it comes to HR, and, realizing that a lot of those things are going to take priority over potential other, finance or accounting duties. A lot of the HR stuff has to happen pretty rapidly. So that was definitely a big change from what I was used to, where, in the accounting world, you can kind of plan out, especially with, being the sole person in that department, you can pretty much have your days, weeks planned out and not really have tons of interruption. HR is the complete opposite. If something comes up, you have to jump on it, you have to stop what you're doing and handle it. So that was definitely one of the biggest, challenges I think I saw, was trying to figure out that time management, how to effectively make sure I can handle that role, but then also, still get everything done on the finance side. So a lot of new things to learn, but I think really getting that experience in a different area has just shown me a totally different role, new skill sets, and really, has helped kind of shape who I am and allow me to, get different experience in other areas. So it's been definitely challenging, but also, fun at the same time. I don't think I would have, without being kind of in a fast moving tech company, I definitely would have not gotten the opportunities that I have.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, it is kind of, like you said, it's very different, numbers versus people. And the cool thing about our company is we have people of all different backgrounds, but that can also be a challenge because it means you have to deal with people in different perspectives. I think that kind of is a good segue into, we have several people that do have technical backgrounds in this group, but there are a majority that, if you looked at our resumes, probably would never guess that we ended up at a tech company. So for our viewers, show of hands, who did not think that they would end up in tech? Yeah, so definitely me. I thought I wanted to work for a professional sports team. I think when I was a senior in college, my dream job was to be the director of marketing for the Detroit Red Wings. Keep all of your other hockey proclivities to yourself. But yeah, so I kind of fell into where my career ended up as well. I wanted to be in marketing. I wanted to be in sports. And I ended up working for a media company doing analytics, which is completely different from what I thought I was going to do, but it really did steer me to the rest of my career and kind of where I've been since I graduated college. And every different step has been a new learning experience and a different skill set that I could pick up. And even though I don't necessarily deal with analytics in my role at ATLATL, it definitely shapes how I interact with other colleagues and how I look at, creating our content. And, Perry and I have definitely had lots of conversations about analytics and being able to translate that into business objectives. And then obviously joining a tech company, I come from an automotive background, which does, function differently. So it's been really great to have so many people who do understand the space and be able to learn it every day. Trudy, I know you also did not expect to land in tech.
No, absolutely not. My plan was to get my advanced degree in psychology, and I enjoy helping people and problem solving. And so my intention was to do that. And I got hired on at a local software company here in Charleston, and that was, meant to be a means to an end because I was relocating from Florida to South Carolina. And when I got there, I just found that I enjoyed the tech industry. I started out in a client-facing role called client relations. And so I helped people solve problems, helped customers with that. And then when I got hired on to ATLATL, I was hired to establish an automated testing program, which we did. And then that expanded into becoming the QA manager. And then just recently being promoted to director. So it's been an interesting journey, and I've certainly learned a lot along the way.
A little bit of a switch, but yeah, that's a really cool, like you said, like you keep learning. And I think, and Allie mentioned this too, you find different passions throughout your career by being introduced and kind of challenged. So that's a really cool transition. I know something that I learned about one of our colleagues, Britt, I did not realize what your degree was in.
Yeah.
On your career history.
Yeah, I mean, where to begin, but I quickly realized, as just a quick background for those of you guys who don't know, I majored in fashion brand management and marketing, which is a business fashion degree. So I did a lot of internships in New York City, all throughout college, and then a little bit post-grad as well. Had every intention of staying in more of a creative, business-oriented role in the fashion industry, but I really did not want to move to New York City full time, and I love being in Charleston, so I was on a quest to find like what I wanted to do from there. So moved here and started my career in fashion in Charleston. I worked in product development at Gildan, which was a great experience. It was an amazing opportunity. I got to work with a lot of international vendors. I worked with China a lot. I learned so much from that opportunity. But I quickly realized like fashion is, you have to be sort of centered in a couple different places in the US to really, excel in those areas. So I really liked doing like more creative focused work. And I had a friend working at an e-com agency in Charleston who reached out to me and said that they thought I'd be a good fit for a project manager role, which is similar to a role I was playing at Gildan. So I ended up interviewing for an e-com agency job. I was super interested in that because the brands that they worked with were pretty big brands like Michelin tires, Blue Mercury, which is like a beauty retailer like Sephora. So I was pretty incentivized just by the names. And so I interviewed and started working there. I stayed there for like 2.5 years. We were super small when I started and started scaling up a little bit. But that was the first opportunity in my career where I really worked with, like, number one, actually a lot of women. And then also just in general, men and women wise, I also had never felt like I worked with so many highly intelligent people. Like it was the first time I walked into a room and I was like, wow, everyone in here is so smart, so dedicated to what they're doing. And so I think just by nature of being around so many like highly motivated people, I really was like, wow, I really want to know as much as possible about this industry. And so I got to be super specialized in a certain sector of e-com design and UX and UI. So had a little bit of a transition from fashion to tech, but yeah, I ended up at ATLATL just looking for, just looking for like a smaller opportunity to make a bigger impact. And so I really loved helping my clients grow their business. And so I was looking for something that would let me stay within like the realm of digital transformation. So I wanted to continue to make an impact with like customers online. So I found ATLATL and I was super excited to join the team, and I have no regrets. So Yeah, that was a long-winded answer, but from fashion to tech in a short, like 5 years. So
That's awesome. I know, Amanda, you've got kind of a mixed background too. I guess you want to give us a little bit of your history and how you've really applied it. I know you've been hard at work since you landed at ATLATL.
Sure. So I started my career in publishing. Marketing's always been a passion of mine, so really wanted to continue to pursue that. I love the digital aspect of it, so that's kind of where the technology comes into play in my day-to-day, just leveraging all the different tools. But moving from publishing to manufacturing, I was at a role that I fell in love with email, and that was something that just the kind of the art and science to it of being creative, but being able to analyze the data and look at the numbers. So I went from there to actually working at a tech company, one of the largest tech companies. And it was the experience on that, using the tool on the vendor side within a larger organization that really just drew me in. The creativeness of everyone that was around me, really the inspiration, the drive to always find something new and be innovative with what we have, really kind of led me to continue to pursue that type of company and culture. And that's really what led me to ATLATL.
And we're happy you landed here.
Yes, very happy.
And Perry, I already touched on you a little bit about how you and I interact, but you want to share some of your story and kind of the impact that you've already brought. I haven't been here all that long, but I've already seen it.
Yeah, so I had no intention of ever having a business job or a tech job. I wanted to be in healthcare. So I actually did my degree in biology and psychology, and I thought I wanted to be a nurse practitioner. So after undergrad, as I was working on my clinical hours to be for going to graduate school, I came to a realization where, like, well, I don't like working in a hospital. I don't like working in healthcare. This is not something that I want to go invest $100,000 in another degree in. So I just kind of had a, okay, well, what do I do with my life now kind of moment. And I met with some friends and different connections that I had, just talked to them about their job and their industry and what they liked about it. And I knew that for me, I wanted to get into an industry that excited me, that I believed in, I knew it would challenge me. And the tech industry kind of checked all of those boxes. I knew it was something that was never going away. You know, we're always going to have some kind of technology. It's always going to evolve and be innovative. And that really kind of aligned with what I wanted in a career. So I started at another tech company here in Charleston in sales, and then joined ATLATL about 2.5 years ago. I started in the sales side and had a similar experience of what Allie had, where you don't just get one job at ATLATL, you get two. It's a 2-for-1 kind of situation. So I had my, day-to-day BDR role and functionality, but I also got involved in some of the sales ops and a little bit of marketing ops, and really starting to build out our database and be our CRM database administrator. And I love that. And I found that was where my passion was, with the more analytical side of things. And so I've really grown into that role, and I've gotten to work really closely with Amanda over the past year, and she's been such an asset to our team from like the analytical side. And then Catherine, you've also brought a lot of great analytical background from the marketing. So I've been able to grow my personal skill set with my colleagues at ATLATL, and then also try and help grow our own ops department.
I do want to say, as someone that is newer to Charleston and kind of its business atmosphere, I had no idea that there was this much tech in Charleston. So as I've gotten more familiar with the city and kind of the ecosphere there, it's an exciting time to be moving there and to really being able to participate in that world. Now, 2 more people who I have learned more from in the last 5 months than I thought was humanly possible. Emma and Ariel, you are 2 people that if you looked at your resume, you might actually expect a tech background. So Ariel, I'll start with you. I know you are extremely passionate about women in tech and kind of how this industry has grown. So if you can share kind of your background and your insights, what has it been like to see more women to get involved in that? Love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. So like you said, I always knew that I wanted to work in at least this STEM field. I didn't know that word when I was a little kid or anything, but I always loved math and science. I was always doing like little experiments. I lived with my grandparents and my mom, and my grandfather and grandmother were both chemists, and my mom was a dentist. So he was always bringing home. My grandpa was always bringing home like rocks and like microscopes and like things for me to play with when I was a kid. Um, so I always loved math and science. And then when I got older, I started realizing I really like, processes and finding efficiencies and stuff. So that led me to a degree in industrial engineering. But then, so I didn't know exactly where in STEM I was going to land. But when I was pursuing that degree, I took some elective classes in computer science and human computer interaction, human factors, and human interface design. And I realized like, oh my gosh, I love doing this. Like I love thinking about how like people interact with software. And through like my first internship, like I realized, oh, in manufacturing too, like you need software to solve problems. And so out of college, my first job was in aviation manufacturing. And even there, like I kept kind of landing in software projects. So I was like, I really, really want to do software IT or tech full time and kind of move away from manufacturing and do this with my time full time. So that's why I pursued my job at ATLATL, and I was really, really excited to finally get the opportunity to be fully at a tech job. So that was kind of my journey. And then like when you ask like how to get more women in tech, I think like for me, like it started from a really like young age, just not being treated any differently than a boy when I was growing up, and having influences around me to like make me feel like I could do anything. Even if it hadn't been tech, I know my family would have been fine with that, but it was just never like weird or anything that I really liked math and science. It was just like, oh, that's cool,
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a nice trend that we've seen, especially for kids. There's tons of different organizations that have come up. There's the whole Girls Who Code. Carly Kloss has one that I can't remember what the name is, but there is more of an emphasis of taking that stigma away of like liking math and science. There's not like that's a good thing. That's not anything that should be shied away from. And I think some people are afraid of those topics. So the fact that if they can be introduced at a young age, it does become more interesting and it can become a passion.
Yeah.
All right, Emma, you are up.
Yeah, so I kind of have a similar background to Ariel. I grew up, my dad and my grandfather were both engineers. So I grew up around using computers and just playing around with computers from really young age. Remember how long it used to take to connect to the internet when I was a little kid, and making websites and trying to make games and stuff like that. And was always just really fascinated by the creativity. And as I got farther in school, just realized having a love for math and science, and that led me to study computer science in college. So I worked really hard through the 4 years of that degree and doing internships as a software engineer throughout the years. But I always kept coming back to the bigger picture and sort of seeing how people fit into the picture and how tech can really be used to improve people's lives and solve real problems that people are facing. And that's what I really love about my current role, is that I get to use my background that I have with actually programming and computer science, but turning that around and like getting to think about people and their lives and how we can use the technology that we're building to make a difference. So that's what's been really cool about working here at ATLATL and getting to work on such a creative project and getting to work with such a great team of people.
Yeah, I think you touched on something that I want to talk about, like the people and the connections that you can make. And Ariel, you made a good point with your family and the encouragement. I think that sense of mentorship and kind of the community around women in tech, that is a huge opportunity and something that no one should ever take for granted. I know that for me, I have mentors in a couple different areas, none of which are actually in tech, but have people that I have connected with even, after starting with ATLATL to get kind of their perspective on it. I know, Britt, you had mentioned that something about like that sense of community for women in tech and, you know, those connections and mentorships that you can make are really important.
Yeah, so one thing that was monumental for me as I moved into tech from a different industry was how easy the transition for me really was, just because I actually joined a predominantly female team when I entered tech. So my who I was directly reporting to was our creative director, who was a very strong female woman, and then my entire team was mostly women, with the exception of one male coworker. But I think that I know a lot of women have stories about, you know, struggling with being the only woman on my team, or, you know, I know there's a lot of different stories amongst the groups of maybe people who had a little bit of a harder time. But for me, I think one of the reasons that it was such an easy transition was just the community that I found immediately. So, you know, with that community, I learned how to ask for a raise that was like very much deserved, how to lead hard conversations with male coworkers, how to be emotionally intelligent in conversations where I could feel myself being emotional and like trying to like pull emotions out of like what I'm saying. So I think having strong female mentors from the beginning has like been instrumental in my career growth, and also being a part of like the Women in Tech meetup. I in technology, different companies, not only in Charleston, e-com agencies, other web agencies. I have friends now that work more in-house with specific brands. So just having those connections has really been instrumental in keeping me focused and motivated and really enjoying being in technology. So I think my advice to any woman in tech is just to find a community of people that lift you up and help you grow to be like the best version of yourself in your career.
That's a great piece of advice. And I think too, finding that community, like you said, it was really great you entered that. But it can be harder for people to find that mentor. One thing that I learned in college was if you have somebody that you know whose path intrigues you, it can be hard to like reach out to somebody. I've kind of adopted the, if there's somebody I want to learn about their path, I will at least try to send a LinkedIn message, or if someone knows them, have them introduce me. It's easier said than done, but like the worst thing that they can say is no. And a lot of people are willing to, you know, talk about how they got there and share advice. And I think that's something that's really great, especially if, you know, a lot of us came from backgrounds that we landed in a career that we didn't necessarily expect. So Allie, you talked about it too, reaching out and finding the people who have the skill sets or have the experiences that can help you be better at what you're trying to do. That is a huge value and something that, even if it's scary, it's always really great to ask. So I guess that'd be my big piece of advice to any, you know, young woman or young man who is looking and going to your career. Don't be afraid to ask the questions or go after what you really want, because you'll never know unless you actually take the jump. So I guess I will open any other advice that we'd like to have for our viewers, either, you know, young students or people entering, or people who are just curious about the industry. I'd love to get the group's open comments.
I had some advice. So I really liked what Brittany said about advocating for, you know, promotions or raises. That's something I took a class on in college that was specifically geared towards women, because they tend to, you know, be they like not advocate for themselves as much. So that's one thing I would really say is like advocate for yourself, believe in yourself, put down on paper the value that you add so you can feel confident when you say that, because you know your worth, and you just have to be clear about expressing that. And like, don't be shy to be confident, because men are very, like, the stereotype is like men are very confident and women like are afraid to be more confident, statistically speaking. So own your accomplishments and own your value, and don't be afraid to like talk openly about that. And then I would say like work on being unapologetically yourself, whether that does or does not conform to what people think a woman should be. So it's okay to be like certain ways, and it's okay to not be other ways that people expect you to be. So I would say, and then don't be too hard on yourself if you do feel insecure about being yourself too, right? Like it's like it's like a journey to get there to where you feel like I am who I am, and I'm not going to like be different to conform to anybody's idea of like what I should be, to fit in a certain like environment or something like the tech space. But also don't be too hard on yourself if it takes you a while to get there, feeling comfortable and confident in doing that.
I feel like that last one is so hard, but it's so important to remember.
I know Ariel and I talk about this all the time, but it's so hard to like not think back about something that you said and be like, oh, why did I say that? Or, oh, I wish I could take that back. I could have said this. Like, or you know, it's super difficult. I feels good to know that other people do it too, but I think giving yourself grace, like Ariel said, is like so important. And we're on a journey to be better every day. So just trying to be as confident as possible with your decisions.
Very true.
I think the other thing that's important to note, Catherine, is that there are a lot of different roles within tech that are not just writing code. So you can be in this industry and do other things. You know, and a few that come to mind are technical writing or training, testing. Those are all things that you can get into this industry without necessarily having a computer science degree.
And you can find a passion that doesn't necessarily relate directly to the tech aspect. So yes, ATLATL works on 3D models and that e-commerce tech side. My biggest passion is writing, and I do all the writing for ATLATL, and that's something that I love, and I get to learn every day, but I'm not actually building the models or the software on the back end.
Catherine is a really good writer. I just want to say, I've told her that before, but she really is.
I appreciate you. Anybody else? Probably wrap up. I think we are coming up on time, but I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day. This has been great. I know we have a great team. I enjoy working with all of you, and we have a big year ahead of us. All right, ladies, I'm going to let everybody go, and we will see everybody on the next episode.
Thank you, Catherine.
Catherine.